They feared no one, until humanity set the stars on fire. Part 1. The Unbroken Dominion. They had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. No one remembered a time before them. No one could imagine a time after them. They were like the darkness between stars. They were everywhere. They were forever. They were fear itself. Their ships were mountains of black metal that moved through space like shadows. Their soldiers stood 8 feet tall with skin like gray stone and eyes that glowed red in the dark. They had conquered 147 worlds. They had enslaved billions of beings. They had destroyed entire species who dared to resist. And they had never lost a war, not once, not ever. The galaxy knew one simple truth. When they came, you had 2 choices. You could kneel and live as slaves, or you could fight and die as examples. There was no third option. There had never been a third option. Until the humans came. Humanity had discovered faster-than-light travel only 60 years ago. They were children in a galaxy of ancient empires. They had built small colonies on a handful of worlds. They had made friends with some peaceful species. They had kept to themselves, learning, growing, dreaming of the future. They noticed them the way a giant notices an insect, with mild curiosity, with casual hunger. The first attack came without warning. The colonies were 3 small worlds on the edge of human space. 30 million people lived there. Farmers, teachers, children, families who had left Earth looking for a quiet life among the stars. The Armada arrived on a Tuesday morning local time. By Wednesday evening, 3 million humans were dead. The cities were burning. The survivors were being loaded onto slave ships, their screams echoing across the empty fields they had worked so hard to build. Admiral received the news on her ship, the Dauntless. She was 47 years old with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war already. She had fought in 3 conflicts on Earth before joining the space fleet. She knew what battle looked like. She knew what death smelled like. But this was different. This was not war. This was slaughter. She stood on the observation deck, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, her people were dying. Somewhere out there, monsters were laughing. Commander walked up beside her. He was her second in command, a tall man with a serious face and quick mind. He held a tablet showing the latest reports from. The numbers were getting worse by the hour. "They are taking everyone they can find," he said quietly. "Men, women, children, they are not asking questions. They are not making deals. They are just taking." Did not look at him. Her eyes stayed on the stars. What do they want? Everything. They sent a message to Earth. They want us to surrender, all of us, every human everywhere. They want us to become their property. And if we refuse? Was silent for a moment. Then he said, "They say they will burn Earth. They say they will hunt down every human in the galaxy. They say they will make us extinct." Finally turned to look at him. There was something in her eyes that had never seen before. It was not fear. It was not sadness. It was fire. "How long do we have?" 3 months, maybe 4. Their main armada is still far away. They are coming slowly. They want us to be afraid. They want us to break before they even arrive. Nodded slowly. 3 months. It was not much time, but it was enough. "Call every captain in the fleet," she said. "Call every scientist, every engineer, every soldier. Wake up everyone. We have work to do." On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. People watched the videos from with horror. They saw the burning cities. They heard the screaming children. They watched the soldiers marching through streets filled with bodies. Fear came first. Panic. Some people said they should surrender. Some people said fighting was pointless. They had never lost. How could humanity win against an enemy that had conquered the galaxy? But then something else came, something they had not expected. Anger. President stood before the United Nations, her small frame straight and her voice steady. She was 62 years old, a grandmother, a former teacher. She had never wanted to be a war president, but here she was. They think we are weak, she said into the cameras. They think we are young and foolish and easy to break. They look at our small fleet and our small colonies and they see prey. She paused, letting her words sink in. They do not know us. They do not know what we have survived. They do not know what we have overcome. For 10,000 years we fought each other. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars that nearly destroyed us. Again and again we fell, and again we rose. Her voice grew stronger. We are not prey. We have never been prey. We are the species that tamed fire. We are the species that split the atom. We are the species that reached for the stars when everyone said it was impossible. She looked directly into the camera. I say this, you have made a terrible mistake. You have awakened something you do not understand. We will not kneel. We will not break. We will fight you with everything we have. And we will win. The world erupted. Factories that had been making cars started making weapons. Scientists who had been studying stars started studying war. Young people lined up at recruitment centers by the millions. On Mars, Engineer worked without sleep. She was 34 years old with messy hair and dark circles under her eyes. She had been studying technology from a crashed scout ship they had captured years ago. No one had cared about her work before. Now everyone cared. They're shields, she told General, pointing at her holographic display. They work on a harmonic frequency, like a musical note. If we can find the right counternote, we can break them. General was an old soldier with white hair and a face. He had been ready to retire. Now he was ready to fight. How long do you need? Looked at her notes, her calculations, her simulations. 2 months, maybe less. You have 6 weeks, make it work. She nodded and went back to work. Across human space, the same scene repeated. Pilots trained day and night. Shipyards worked around the clock. Weapons that had only existed on paper became real. Humanity had always been good at one thing above all else, surviving when survival seemed impossible. They watched from far away and felt the first tiny seed of doubt. The humans were not surrendering. The humans were not running. The humans were building. But they pushed the doubt away. They had seen resistance before. They had crushed resistance before. These humans were just another species that did not understand the inevitable. They would learn. They always learned. Admiral stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, watching the construction crews build new ships around Earth. She thought about the 3 million dead. She thought about the children in the slave ships. We are coming, she whispered to the stars. We are coming, and you will learn what it means to wake a sleeping giant. The countdown had begun. 3 months until they arrived. 3 months to prepare for the impossible. 3 months to save humanity. They feared no one until humanity set the stars on fire. Part 2, The First Fire. The Armada came out of the darkness like a storm made of metal and hate. 1,200 warships. Each one was bigger than a city. Each one carried enough weapons to burn a planet. Together, they formed the largest fleet they had ever sent against a single enemy. Overlord stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He was old even by standards. He had conquered 30 worlds in his lifetime. He had watched species beg for mercy. He had watched them burn when mercy was. He knew how this story ended. It always ended the same way. How many ships do the humans have? He asked his officers. 73, Overlord. Most of them are small. They have nothing that can match our destroyers. Made a sound that might have been laughter. 73 ships against 1,200. This would not even be a battle. This would be an execution. Send them our final offer, he commanded. They will surrender their leaders for public execution. The rest of their kind will live as our slaves. If they refuse, we will burn their world and hunt them until none remain. The message traveled through space at the speed of light. It reached Earth in moments. On the Dauntless, communications officer received it. She was young, only 26, with a calm face that hid a fierce heart. She had lost her brother She had not slept well since. "Admiral," she said, "they are demanding our surrender. They want to execute our leaders. They say they will spare the population for slavery." Admiral sat in her command chair. Around her the bridge crew was silent. Everyone was watching. Everyone was waiting. Thought about her father, who had died fighting in the Pacific Wars on Earth. She thought about her mother, who had raised 3 children alone after that. She thought about every human who had ever refused to give up, even when giving up would have been easier. "Send them our response," she said. "Tell them that humanity does not negotiate with slavers. Tell them that we do not kneel. Tell them to remember this day for the rest of their short lives. Tell them we are coming for all of them." Smiled as she typed the message. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting a long time for this moment. The message reached the Eternal Dominion. Overlord read it twice, not believing what he was seeing. No one had ever responded to the like this. No one had ever dared. "They are insane," he said. "Destroy them." The battle began. The fleet moved forward like a wall of death. Their weapons charged. Their shields glowed. They expected this to be over in minutes. They were wrong. Commander led the fighter squadrons in the first wave. 300 small ships, each carrying 2 pilots. They flew straight at the formation, faster than anyone thought possible. "All pilots," said into his radio, remember the 3 million. Today we make them pay." They opened fire. Space filled with energy beams and explosions. Human fighters died by the dozens, but they kept coming. They did not slow down. They did not turn back. And then weapons activated. Every human ship carried the harmonic disruptors she had invented. They sent out waves of energy that crashed against the shields like hammers against glass. The shields, which had never failed in 12,000 years, began to flicker and die. For the first time in living memory, ships were vulnerable. The human cruisers came next. Admiral led them personally, the Dauntless at the front of the formation. They poured fire into the gaps that the fighters had created. "Target their command ships," ordered. "Cut off the head and the body will fall." They were confused. This was not how battles were supposed to go. They were supposed to win easily. They were supposed to watch their enemies break and run. Instead, the humans were pushing forward. The humans were winning. Pilot flew her fighter through the heart of the formation. She was 24 years old. She had grown up on. She had watched her family die from her escape pod, unable to do anything but scream. A weapon hit her ship. Alarms screamed. Smoke filled the cockpit. Her right arm was broken. Blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead. Any other pilot would have retreated. Any other pilot would have tried to survive. Pointed her dying ship at the biggest destroyer she could see. She pushed her engines to maximum. She did not close her eyes. "This is for my family," she whispered. Her ship hit the destroyer's command bridge at full speed. The explosion tore through the massive warship like fire through paper. The destroyer broke apart in a shower of metal and flame. Did not survive, but neither did 16,000 soldiers. Across the battlefield, humans were fighting with a fury they had never seen. They were not fighting like soldiers. They were fighting like people who had nothing left to lose. They were fighting like people who would rather die on their feet than live on their knees. Sergeant led a boarding team onto a damaged cruiser. His squad was 12 soldiers against hundreds of warriors. The odds were impossible. They won anyway. Fought with a rifle in one hand and a knife in the other. When his rifle ran out of power, he used it as a club. When his knife broke, he used his fists. He took 11 wounds and kept fighting until every on the ship was dead. "Humans do not give up," he told the medic who found him later, barely alive. "That is the one thing we are really good at." The battle lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of fire and blood and death. 6 hours that changed the galaxy forever. When it was over, they had lost 417 ships. Their formation was broken. Their confidence was shattered. Overlord, who had never retreated in his entire life, gave the order to fall back. The humans had lost 41 ships. Thousands of brave men and women would never go home again. The price of freedom was paid in blood, as it always was. But they had won. Admiral stood on her bridge, surrounded by damaged and wounded crew members. She looked at the retreating fleet. She thought about and all the others who had given everything. "Send a message to every human ship," she said. "Tell them we won today. Tell them this is just the beginning. Tell them they now know what it means to fight humanity." On the Eternal Dominion, Overlord sat alone in his chambers. His hands were shaking. He had never known fear before. He knew it now. He recorded a message and sent it to every world in the galaxy. His voice was quiet, almost broken. "The humans are not prey. The humans are not weak. The humans are a problem, a serious problem. Prepare for war, real war. We have awakened something we do not understand." Far away on Earth, people danced in the streets. They cried and laughed and held each other. For the first time since, they felt hope. President watched the celebration from her office window. She was tired. She was sad for the dead, but she was also proud. "This is who we are," she said to herself. "This is what we do. We fight, we survive, we win." The first battle was over. The war had just begun. They feared no one until humanity set the stars on fire. Part 3: The Burning Path. The news of the Battle of Earth spread through the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Every species heard the story. Every world watched the footage. The impossible had happened. Someone had beaten the. On 100 conquered planets, slaves whispered the name human like it was a prayer. On the, generals argued about what had gone wrong. In the dark corners of the galaxy, ancient species who had hidden from for thousands of years began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, things were about to change. Admiral did not give them time to wonder for long. "We do not wait for them to come back," she told her commanders at the War Council. "We go to them. We free our people on. We show the galaxy that humanity does not just defend. Humanity attacks." Commanders studied the star maps. The colonies were far behind lines now. Getting there would mean fighting through enemy territory. It would mean supply lines stretched thin. It would mean incredible risk. "It is dangerous," he said. "Everything is dangerous now," replied. "But our people are still in chains. Every day we wait, they suffer. Every day we wait, more of them die. I will not wait." The Liberation Fleet departed Earth 2 weeks after the first battle. 50 ships, 20,000 soldiers. They carried with them the hopes of an entire species. The journey took 3 weeks. They fought 7 smaller battles along the way. They lost 4 ships, but they kept moving forward, deeper into space than any human had gone before. They could not understand it. They had always been the hunters. Now they were being hunted. Human ships appeared where they were not supposed to be. Human soldiers fought with a ferocity that terrified even the most experienced warriors. On the colony world of 30,000 humans were still being held in labor camps. They worked in the mines, in the factories, in the fields. They were beaten for speaking. They were killed for looking at their masters wrong. They had given up hope. Then the sky filled with human ships. Admiral led the assault personally. Her Marines dropped from orbit in hundreds of landing pods, screaming down through the atmosphere like falling stars. The defenders scrambled to respond, but they were too slow. Sergeant was in the first wave to hit the ground. He was 31 years old with a wife and daughter back on Earth. He had volunteered for this mission because his sister had been on when they came. He did not know if she was alive or dead. He was about to find out. His squad broke through the fence of the largest labor camp just as the sun was rising. What they found inside would haunt them forever. Thousands of humans in torn clothes, their bodies thin and broken, children with empty eyes who had forgotten how to smile, old people who could barely stand, the marks of whips and chains on every back. Found his sister in the third building they searched. She was alive, barely. She did not recognize him at first. When she finally understood who he was, she began to cry. "I knew you would come," she whispered. I told them humans never give up. I told them you would come." Held her and cried too. Then he picked up his weapon and went back to work. The fighting lasted 2 days. The garrison fought hard, but they were outnumbered and, more importantly, they were fighting humans who had seen what had been done to their people. Those humans showed no mercy. Medic Ara worked without rest, treating the wounded prisoners. She was 28, small and quiet, with gentle hands and a fierce determination. She had been a children's doctor before the war. Now she was putting broken people back together. "You are safe now," she told each patient. "You are free. Humanity came for you." Many of them did not believe her at first. They had been slaves for months. They had been told that no one was coming. They had been told that humanity had been destroyed. They had lied, as tyrants always lie. The truth was better than any medicine. On the second day, Sergeant's squad cornered the last commander in the central compound. The alien was wounded, surrounded by dead guards. He threw down his weapon and raised his hands. "I surrender," he said in broken human language. "Your galactic law says you must take prisoners. You must treat me fairly." Stood over him, rifle ready. He thought about his sister. He thought about the children in the camps. He thought about the 3 million dead. His finger touched the trigger. Captain Minu appeared beside him. He was a tall man with a calm voice, older than most of his soldiers. "Stand down, Sergeant." "Sir, do you know what they did here? Do you see what they did to our people?" "I see it. I will never forget it, but we take prisoners." Minu looked at the commander with cold eyes. "We are not them. We will never be them. That is how we win." Lowered his rifle slowly. It was the hardest thing he had ever done, but he did it. The commander was taken away in chains. He would later testify at a war crimes tribunal. He would describe everything they had done. He would tell the galaxy about human justice, about how the humans could have killed him but chose not to, about how that frightened him more than any weapon. "They were angry enough to tear us apart," he said, "but they controlled themselves. They had rules, they had honor. We never expected that. We never planned for that." Meanwhile, Engineer and her team had landed at a different location. They were not rescuing prisoners. They were looking for something else. They had built a secret research station on 3, deep underground, hidden from sensors, guarded by their best soldiers. Intelligence suggested something important was there, something they did not want anyone to find. Her team fought their way inside. What they found made blood run cold. It was a weapon, a star killer, a device that could cause a sun to explode, destroying everything in the entire system, planets, moons, everything. They had been planning to use it on Earth. Sat in front of the weapon for a long time, staring at it. She thought about how close humanity had come to extinction. She thought about what would have happened if they had lost the first battle. She thought about Earth as a ball of fire, 8 billion people dying in an instant. She called General on a secure channel. "I found something," she said, "something that changes everything." "What is it?" "A way to end the war. A way to make sure they never threaten anyone again." She paused. "And a choice we are going to have to make. A choice about what kind of species we want to be." There was silence on the other end of the line. "Can you bring it back?" "Yes, I can do better than that. I can improve it. I can make it more powerful, powerful enough to destroy any star in the galaxy." More silence, then said, "Bring it home, we need to talk." The liberation of was complete. 27,000 humans were saved. The camps were burned to the ground. The flag was torn down and replaced with the blue and green of Earth. Admiral walked through the ruins of the largest camp on the last day. Survivors reached out to touch her uniform, to thank her, to cry on her shoulder. She hugged as many as she could. "We came," she told them. "We will always come. Humanity does not abandon its own, never again." As her ship left orbit, she looked back at 3. The planet was free now. The people were free, but the war was not over. They still had thousands of ships. They still ruled most of the galaxy. They were wounded but not defeated. And now humanity had a weapon that could destroy stars. The choice had talked about was coming. Everyone knew it. No one knew what they would decide. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. They feared no one, until humanity set the stars on fire. Part 4: The Reckoning. It was called Prime. It was a beautiful planet with purple forests and silver oceans. 20 billion lived there. Their children played in ancient gardens. Their artists made sculptures that lasted for centuries. Their families gathered for meals under 3 moons. They had never known fear. For 12,000 years their world had been safe. War was something that happened to other species. Death was something that came to other worlds. Prime was eternal. Prime was untouchable. Then humanity arrived. The human fleet came out of hyperspace like ghosts appearing from nowhere. 200 ships, more than they had ever gathered before. At the center of the formation was a new vessel, the biggest ship humanity had ever built. They called it the Retribution. It carried the star killer weapon that had found and improved. Chancellor stood on the bridge of the Retribution. She was 60 years old with white hair and tired eyes. She had not wanted to be a war leader. She had been a diplomat before all this, someone who believed in talking instead of fighting. But they had not wanted to talk. They had wanted to enslave. Her husband had died on. Her son had died at the Battle of Earth, flying a fighter into the enemy formation. She had every reason to hate. She had every reason to want revenge. But hate was not the same as wisdom, and revenge was not the same as justice. Admiral stood beside her, looking at the planet below. Prime was so peaceful from up here, so quiet, so unaware of what was about to happen. "We could end them today," said quietly. "One shot. Their sun explodes, 20 billion die. The war ends forever." Nodded slowly. "Yes, we could. They would have done it to us. They were planning to do it to us. I know. Our people are demanding it. After what they did after all the death, everyone wants to pay." Turned to face her. "Is that what you want?" Was silent for a long moment. She thought about the pilot who had died ramming a destroyer. She thought about Sister, broken and starving in a slave camp. She thought about 3 million dead on. "I want them to suffer," she admitted. "Part of me wants to burn their whole species, but another part—" She stopped, searching for words. "Another part what?" "Another part knows that is not who we are. That is not why we fight." The debate over what to do had consumed humanity for weeks. In government buildings and living rooms, in military bases and university halls, everyone had an opinion. The galaxy was watching. History was watching. Commander had argued strongly for destruction. He sat in the War Council with hard eyes and a harder voice. "They are monsters," he said. "They have been monsters for 12,000 years. If we let them survive, they will rebuild. They will come back. Our will fight this same war, and maybe next time they will lose. We have to end this now. Forever." Others agreed with him. The videos from had made many people want vengeance. They had shown no mercy. Why should humanity be different? But there were other voices too. Dr. Ara, the medic who had treated the survivors, spoke at the council. Her voice was soft but clear. "I held dying children in my arms," she said. "I saw what they did to the innocent. I have more reason to hate them than most. But if we destroy their world, we kill their children too. Children who never chose this war. Children who never hurt anyone." She looked around the room. "We became strong because we had to survive. But strength is not just about what you can destroy. It is about what you choose not to destroy. It is about who you are when you have all the power. The argument went back and forth for hours. No one could agree. The decision was too big, too final. It would define humanity forever. Then Private stood up. She was 19 years old. She had been a student before the war. She had watched her entire colony burn from an escape pod, unable to help, unable to look away. She had joined the military the day she arrived on Earth. She was young, but she had seen more death than people 3 times her age. Everyone fell silent when she spoke. My family did not die so we could become monsters. Her voice was quiet but steady. My mother was a teacher. She taught children to read. She believed that every person had value. She believed that kindness was stronger than hate. That killed her because she tried to protect her students. Tears ran down her face, but she did not wipe them away. If we burn their world, we become the thing she died fighting against. We prove that they were right about the universe, that only power matters, that mercy is weakness, that might makes right. She looked at Chancellor directly. But if we show mercy, even to our worst enemies, we prove something else. We prove that there is another way, a better way. We prove that humanity is different. We prove that my mother was right all along. The room was absolutely silent. I do not want revenge, she said. I want justice. Those are not the same thing. Revenge destroys, justice builds. Let us build something better. Let us be better. She sat down. For a long moment no one spoke. Then Chancellor stood. We will vote, she said. Every member of the council, destruction or mercy. This choice belongs to all of humanity. The vote took 3 hours. Every voice was heard. Every argument was considered. When it was done, the count was read aloud. Destruction, 47%. Mercy, 53%. It was close, so close, but humanity had chosen. Now, standing on the bridge of the retribution, Chancellor prepared to deliver that choice to the galaxy. Open a channel, she told, who had been promoted to lead communications for the entire fleet. Every frequency. I want every species in the galaxy to hear this. The channel opened, took a deep breath. To the hegemony, to every species watching, to everyone who has lived under the shadow of tyranny for 12,000 years, humanity speaks. On Prime, billions of stopped what they were doing to listen. They expected death. They expected fire. They had prepared themselves for the end. We have won, continued. Our fleet surrounds you. We carry a weapon that can destroy your sun. Every one of your 20 billion people would die in moments. You know this. The entire galaxy knows this. She paused. You would have done this to us. You were planning to do this to us. You have done it to others. You have ruled through fear and death for longer than humanity has existed. Her voice grew stronger. But we are not you, we are human, and we choose differently. The leaders, watching from their bunkers, could not believe what they were hearing. We will not destroy your world. We will not commit genocide. Instead, we offer you terms. Surrender unconditionally. Release all slaves from every world. Submit to justice for your war crimes. Do these things and your people will live. Your children will grow up. Your species will survive. She leaned forward. But know this. We are showing mercy once. Only once. If you refuse, if you attack us again, if you harm another innocent being, we will not ask twice. We will not negotiate twice. We will burn every star you have ever touched and salt the space where your empire stood. Her eyes were hard as stone. You have lived without fear for 12,000 years. Learn fear now. Learn what it means to face a species that can destroy you and chooses not to. Learn what mercy costs. Learn what you owe the universe. She straightened. You have 1 day to decide. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. The galaxy held its breath. On Prime, they looked up at the sky. They saw the human ships. They thought about 20 billion lives. They thought about their children. And for the first time in 12,000 years, they were afraid. They feared no one until humanity set the stars on fire. Part 5: Stars on Fire. They had 24 hours to decide, the longest day in their history, the most important choice their species had ever faced. In their capital city, the High Council met in emergency session. 12 leaders who had ruled an empire of 147 worlds. 12 voices that had commanded 12,000 years of conquest. Now they sat in a room surrounded by guards, watching their fleet burn in orbit, knowing that death hung above their heads like a sword made of. "We should fight," one of them said. He was old and proud and could not imagine surrender. We do not kneel." "Fight with what?" another replied. She was younger and had actually looked at the numbers. "They destroyed half our fleet at Earth. They destroyed more they have a weapon that can kill our sun. Fighting is suicide." The arguments went around and around. Pride against reality. Tradition against survival. Some wanted to call the human threat a bluff. Some wanted to launch a final attack. Some sat in silence, unable to accept what was happening. In the end, it was the oldest council member who spoke the truth that no one wanted to hear. "We are not choosing between victory and defeat," she said. "That choice was made when we attacked Earth. We are choosing between extinction and survival, between our children dying today and our children living to tomorrow." She looked at her fellow council members with eyes that had seen empires rise and fall. "I have been proud all my life. I have ruled worlds. I have commanded armies, but I am not too proud to save let us surrender. Let us live. Let us learn from this and become something different." The vote was not close. 11-1, they would surrender. But humanity had one more thing to prove first. Chancellor received the surrender message with no celebration. She read it carefully, confirmed its authenticity, and then gave an order that surprised everyone. "Set course for the Reach system," she said, "the empty one on the edge of space." Admiral looked at her with confusion. "That system has no planets, no stations, nothing of value." "It has a star," replied, "and the galaxy needs to see what we could have done, what we chose not to do." The Retribution jumped to hyperspace, followed by cameras and recording devices from every major species. The whole galaxy was watching. The whole galaxy wanted to know what humanity would do next. The Reach system was exactly as had said. Empty, worthless. A yellow star burning alone in the void, warming nothing, supporting no life. It had existed for billions of years without anyone caring about it. It would exist for only a few more minutes. Engineer stood at the weapon controls. Her hands were steady, but her heart was pounding. She had built this thing. She had made it work. She knew exactly what it could do. "Are you ready?" asked her. Nodded. "It will work. The star will collapse into itself and then explode outward. Everything in this system will be destroyed. The light will be visible across half the galaxy." Turned to the cameras that were broadcasting to every inhabited world. "People of the galaxy," she said, "you have lived under for 12,000 years. You have been conquered, enslaved, and destroyed. You have had no hope. Today, hope returns." She gestured at the star on the. "We are about to demonstrate the weapon we could have used on Prime. We want you to see its power. We want you to understand what they understood when they surrendered. We want you to know that humanity could have ended them completely." Her voice grew harder. "And we want you to know that we chose not to. We chose mercy over vengeance. We chose justice over extinction. We chose to be better than those who hurt us." She paused. "Remember this. The next time someone tells you that the strong must always destroy the weak, the next time someone tells you that power is the only thing that matters, remember that humanity had ultimate power and we used it to build instead of destroy, to save instead of kill, to hope instead of hate." She nodded at. "Fire. Press the button." The weapon sent a beam of energy into the star, invisible to the naked eye but more powerful than anything in the history of warfare. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the star began to change. It grew brighter, hotter. The surface began to bubble and churn like boiling water. Great explosions of fire shot out from the surface, reaching millions of miles into space. The star was dying, and it was dying loud. The collapse came next. The star pulled in on itself, crushed by forces that imagination. It grew smaller and smaller and denser until it was a point of light so bright that the cameras could barely capture it. Then it exploded. The light filled the entire system. It washed over the retribution like a wave of pure energy. The shields held barely. Everyone on the bridge covered their eyes, but the light came through anyway, burning images into their minds that they would never forget. When it was over, the star was gone. In its place was a cloud of expanding gas and debris, glowing with the last heat of destruction. The reach system was dead. Nothing would ever live there again. Across the galaxy, trillions of beings watched in stunned silence. They had never seen anything like this. They had never imagined anything like this. And they had never imagined that the species with this power would choose not to use it on their enemies. Chancellor turned back to the cameras. This is our message to the galaxy. We are humanity. We were small and young and alone. We were attacked without reason. We were marked for extinction, but we survived. We fought back. We won. She spread her hands. And now we offer you something that has not existed for 12,000 years. Choice, hope, freedom. That will answer for their crimes. The slaves will be freed. The conquered worlds will govern themselves. A new council of species will be formed, and every voice will be heard. Her voice softened. We do not want to rule you. We do not want to control you. We only want to live in peace as neighbors, as partners, as friends. We have proven that we can destroy. Now let us prove that we can build. She smiled just a little. The stars do not need to burn. Let us fill them with light instead. The broadcast ended. For a long moment the galaxy was silent. Then the messages began to come. From every corner of space, from species who had hidden for centuries, from slaves who had dreamed of freedom, from children who had never known a life without fear. Messages of thanks, messages of hope, messages of welcome. Humanity had set a star on fire, and in doing so, they had lit a flame of hope that would never go out. 50 years later, Professor stood before the Monument of Liberation on New Sol. She was old now, her hair gray and her step slow. But her eyes were still bright, still curious, still looking toward the stars. Around her, delegates from 50 species gathered for the anniversary celebration. Humans and former walked together, their old hatred slowly healing. Children of a dozen races played in the gardens, their laughter filling the air. Admiral, now retired and walking with a cane, stood beside her old friend. "Do you regret it?" asked. "Not destroying them when we had the chance. There are still some who say we should have." Watched a human child teach a young how to play catch. The alien was confused by the ball, but the human was patient, showing the motion again and again. "They feared no one for 12,000 years, she said softly. They feared nothing. They thought fear was the only power that mattered. She smiled, old wounds finally becoming old scars. Now they remember that humanity set the stars on fire, and we still chose not to burn them. We showed them something stronger than fear. We showed them mercy. We showed them hope. We showed them who we really are. She put her hand on shoulder. That is a legacy worth leaving. That is a story worth telling, forever. Above them, the stars shone bright and steady. The same stars that had witnessed humanity's first steps into the void. The same stars that had watched an empire fall and a new era begin. The same stars that would carry humanity's light for billions of years to come. The story was not over. Stories never really end. But this chapter was complete, and it ended the way the best stories do. With hope, with healing, with humanity. Forever reaching for the stars.